The NFL Combine is going on this week in Indianapolis. Arizona State opens up spring football workouts this week, and we have recruiting news to get to as well. Both Herm Edwards and Jaden Daniels on tonight's show, plus plenty from Indianapolis and recruiting news too from Jordan Ham. We're brought to you by Sagicor Now. Protect what matters most, and that is with life insurance. I have my license. I've been able to help people out with Sagicor. Look, life insurance is something you will need. At some point in time, you're going to need it, and you just don't know when that will be. Of course, life insurance, if you didn't come home tonight, would everything be handled the way that you would want it to be? Log on to Sagicor Now and get your free quote right now. That's at Sagicor Now. We appreciate Sagicor and their support. Let's start with the Combine in Indianapolis, and Steve Keim is there looking over the talent for another year. The Cardinals have the 8th overall pick. I think they should look at wide receiver. I have a couple in mind. Jerry Jeudy from Alabama has been at the top of my list, and CD Lamb, who Kyler Murray is very familiar with. Those are two players I think the Cardinals should definitely consider with that 8th pick. This is all going on in Indianapolis. In terms of Arizona State, so the Sun Devils started spring football earlier this week. Amazing, right? We're in February and spring ball has already started, but that's what makes football, the Football AZ show, so much fun. For the Sun Devils and Herm Edwards, going into season number 3, I caught up with the coach earlier. Spring football is here, spring is sprung. What are you most looking forward to over spring and seeing on the field?
Well, implementing the offense and the defense, all of a sudden it's brand new. Yeah. When you think about it on both sides of the ball. So we're actually starting over again, which is kind of a good thing, because the thing you realize when you start over, it piques players' interest. Their knowledge now all of a sudden is challenged. Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes a good thing. So this is going to kind of be fun to watch this thing, how it grows.
What do you want to see out of Jaden in spring?
Well, to continue the improvement and become more of a leader. And I didn't put that on him last year at all. A freshman quarterback coming in, he had enough on his plate. But what he's done, he's convinced me, and I think the rest of the coaches on the offensive staff, that we can protect him with the football. In other words, he is not going to turn over a whole lot.
What do you see, Herman, year 1 to year 2 usually out of kids? If we're talking about Jaden, or any kid, freshman to sophomore, in terms of growth?
Well, I think they learn how to be a student athlete and prioritize their time. That's the first thing you realize when a freshman comes to campus. This is why it's critical if they can get in the spring. We have 13 of them in the spring right now, so they can kind of go through the program without having to worry about a game. It's just practice in the spring ball. How do they implement themselves as a student athlete? The time, how do you prioritize your time? You only have so many hours for football. Then your social calendar becomes an issue, right? In today's world, the world we live in, you don't get to make those errors anymore. Yeah. 25 years ago, everything's good, right? Now, everything. And I tell them, when you walk out of your dorm and you're on campus, you're on TV. Somebody has you on a screen. Remember that.
Running backs, walk us through it, because there's some very exciting moves that have been made, and here in spring, look at running backs.
Well, Nagata we get from Northern California reminds you a lot of Eno Benjamin, the way he runs. Chip, as we call him, out of the Midwest. He's a powerful runner now. He's a powerful runner. And they're going to compete, those two freshmen, with the kids that we have coming back to play a lot. And you can already see it in the room. You can see it in the workouts. There is competition at every position. That's what this program is built on, competition. You don't live on what you've done in the past. It's about competing right now, today. That's how we get judged.
2 other questions. One is a player or two that you're like, Brad, I have not seen this kid much. I don't really know what I've got here. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this kid's all about here in spring.
Well, I'm not going to point out one guy, because when you do that, their parents are listening to this broadcast. Yeah, okay. Well, why didn't you mention my son? So I'm smart enough to figure that out. I'll say this. We have some young secondary players that were freshmen last year. Some of them were sophomores. How have they grown? We've got some new young linebackers coming in. We have some receivers that are starting to come part of the package, right? Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. At every step of it, we've created a competitive atmosphere. We're going to see who can withstand it.
Last question. You've got guys getting ready for the Combine and the draft. What are you hearing about your guys, the Ayuks and the Benjamins and others?
Excited. People are excited about watching them at the Combine, and our guys have done a nice job of working out, getting themselves prepared for the Combine. Joe has worked with a lot of our guys that not only the Combine, our pro day. We have a lot of players that are still here that are going to go through our pro day, so I think they're well aware. I've had some people at the Combine already call me and ask me about, obviously, Ayuk, Eno, Corral. They've already asked me questions about them, so it's good when you send 4 guys. Don't forget about the punter. The punter's there too. See, and some people forget about that. So we got a punter there too. So that's kind of nice. You get 4 guys to the Combine. Hopefully that will become an occurring thing for us, that we send guys to the Combine. Our program is built on this, the pro model. What does that mean? 3 years, we want you to graduate, and if you have the talent, we'd like for you to have an opportunity to play pro football, because that's what 90% of these kids want to do.
Appreciate your time as always. Thanks, Herman.
Thank you, my friend.
I'm Sandy Charles. Coming up on AZ Audibles, presented by Venezia's Pizzeria. The NFL Combine is this week, so we discuss which Arizona high school football players we'd like to see participate in the Combine.
Think you're going to like hearing from Jaden Daniels, the Sun Devil star quarterback, later in the show. And the recruiting roundup, too. Jordan Ham, all the ins and outs, the recruiting news straight ahead. All of our content's up on our website at sports360az.com.
Welcome into another AZ Audibles presented by Venezia's Pizzeria. I'm Sandy Charles. Now, the NFL Combine is this week, so here at Sports 360 AZ, that got us thinking. Who would we like to see if Arizona had a high school Combine? So for more, we bring in Devin Henry and Eric Sorensen, and we're going to talk all about this. You guys, there are a lot of players that we could name, so for time, we're going to keep it to 2020. Who would you like to see in a Combine type format? Eric, we'll start with you.
Well, one thing that the NFL Combine likes is production at the college level. At the Arizona high school level, you'll be hard-pressed to find a more productive player at the 2020 class than Kevin Daniels, running back from Glendale High School. For his career, 5,000 total yards, 112 touchdowns. He was unstoppable. He even threw for 6 touchdowns. And when you look at his style, at 6'2", 225 pounds, he's already built like some NFL running backs, and he's a senior in high school. He is going to be unbelievable in Aaron Flugrad's offense at NAU. He's also a 3-sport athlete. He plays football, basketball, and also runs track.
I love that because I love to see how that helps them in the Combine. And I love that you just gave some love to Glendale. I
You gotta
love
take care.
that.
I mean, usually he's the one that's taking care of the West Valley.
I appreciate
Today,
it.
I'm doing
Yes,
it.
yes.
So you're welcome.
Okay, Devin, Eric just gave some love to the West Side. So now who's your guy for the Combine?
All right, well, I got just the guy. If I'm put on the spot, going over to Peoria, one thing that I love to see at the Combine are dudes with great hands. And that's Javon Scott over at Peoria. Over 1,000 yards this year, became such a staple in that Peoria offense. A guy who is a go-to at the receiver position in the 4A conference. Was just a fun guy to watch all year long. Could catch just about anything that Cal Sanford would throw to him.
Both of you guys going on the West Valley. I love it. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go East Valley. I'm going to do Saguaro. We all know Saguaro, but there's one name that I didn't really hear a lot being mentioned last year, and it's Jalen Jeffers, senior, of course, 6'6", 260. I love seeing him as a junior. Big guy, athletic, powerful, but he can move, and you don't really expect that with that type of size. He can move. He's the reason Tyler Beverett was so successful, and also how they were able to create gaps for Keely Ringo to be able to running back this year. So next one, your second guy. Who's it going to be?
Well, it's time to give some more love to the offensive line. How about Cade Bennett at Notre Dame Prep? This guy is just a mauler. I mean, the best thing about Cade Bennett, number one, he doesn't just finish plays, he finishes blocks. He's nasty. Played all along the offensive line, also played along the defensive front for George Prelock and the Saints. Oklahoma State signee, don't be surprised if he plays early and often in Stillwater.
A group of people who I love to see at a Combine are just pure athletes, and Shane Sunday from Pinnacle High School fits that description. Plays on both sides of the line, outside linebacker and tight end, a guy who, if it gets thrown to him, he just rises right up, gets that ball, a pure athlete who would be fun to watch in any of the combine challenges.
My second to last is Day Hunter out of Chandler, and that's because it was such a tease. He burst onto the Arizona scene for his senior year, and we got to see a little bit of him, but I want to see how much more, what he can do, and the combine, I think, would be the perfect place for that. And my last one is Jalen Early out of Millennium, so giving some love to the West Side. He's a quarterback, but now he's also playing basketball. They're in the run to maybe take state this year, and I love a dual sport athlete, and I love to see what they could do, how that helps in the combine, how it helps with speed and agility and jumping. I love that. And he wasn't just a leader on the field, but off the field too. If any of the players were hanging their heads, he was over there and he was pumping them up.
And great leadership skills because his dad is the head coach of
Yes.
Millennium, so the apple does not fall far from the tree on that one.
It really doesn't, You guys, this would be an awesome combine. I would love it to see this. Thank you so much for chatting today about this. For more, head to sports360az.com. This was another edition of AZ Audibles presented by Venezia's Pizzeria.
And now to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has taken the Valley and Arizona State football by storm. The quarterback is moving into his sophomore season. I caught up with him earlier on a number of topics on and off the field. All right, so you have spring football starting. How are you better than when you walked off the field in El Paso after the Florida State game?
More knowledge. Main thing in these couple weeks I had before spring ball, really diving into playbook, really diving into seeing watching my whole freshman year, seeing the things that I missed, correct my mistakes, and I'm a year older than I was walking off of El Paso. You know, I started my sophomore year. It's a good way to start going into the next season.
You're a year wiser, not older. Don't be too older, you know, Mr. Daniels. Otherwise, you know, you wake up one day and say, "Man, I'm old." I'm curious about the whole academic athletics side. How do you balance? How has that been for you? Have you decided what you're majoring in and all that? Help us out here with that.
So I'm majoring in interdisciplinary studies. So I'm doing business and communication on both sides. But the whole academic thing, I give a lot of thanks to my academic coach, Kelly Benjamin, always staying on top of me, helping me out whenever, because you know I have a busy schedule here and there. So she set up classes to help me out at these times. Always helping me. I'm always in her office doing my work, so she always helps me out. So I give thanks to her.
So on the communication side, you want to do this? You want to hold mics and do TV? Really?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? You want to turn around and do the interview with me, or you know?
It's your interview right now. I'll do it another time.
How have you found closing your circle? Meaning, I heard about Jaden Daniels when he's a junior in high school, and you got everybody wanting a piece of you. How have you found closing down the circle?
You know, it's kind of hard, but I have my group of friends here that I'm gaining a friendship with. I have my group of friends back home that have been my friends since we're little. They're on their separate ways. Some going to college, some are staying back home. I wish them the best, but really, I always talk to the guys that are similar to me, so the guys that are going to college for football.
The guys that knew you when you were a dumpy little 7th grader, 8th grader.
Before I got the offers before ASU.
Yeah. Have you had to push some people out of the circle? Have you had to look and make some decisions on people and say, you know what, this is not the best people for me to be with?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. You know, once you get older, more success starts to come. You know, you gotta really look at your circle and see who's really there for you and who's really there to try to hinder you, hold you back.
All right, when you're watching tape, did you see some plays last year where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
No, definitely.
Yeah, and because it's easy to show the highlights.
Yeah.
The lowlights nobody sees, but how personal do you take that stuff?
You know, always got to be a hard critic on yourself. The main thing is just there's a couple plays I missed. You know, I owe Frank a couple touchdowns.
And does he remind you of that?
No, not really. I owe Brandon a couple touchdowns, a couple yards.
Anything else you want to add about football and this team? You know, a sophomore year, what I usually see out of young players is they can now say, my team. It is a team, but it's my team. Do you feel like that this year?
I mean, that's I do in a way. That's the conversation me and Coach Herm had. He said it's going to be your team. You're the quarterback. You're the leader of the team. So I mean, people look to me, but there's also other leaders in the different groups. So we got Frank is the leader, Darian, Merlin, Jack Jones, Chase. All those guys are leaders. And then you got the young guys that can step up and not be afraid to lead in their way. I know that going into it, they're freshmen. They're still trying to find their way into things. They haven't been through a season. But those are the times that they lean on us, on the older guys that have been through a whole season, been through everything. So, I mean, realistically, I'm just stepping into that leadership role. But I want to say probably the most vocal leader is Frank.
Yeah. You're very humble. I mean, is that ingrained in you?
Yeah, it is. That's something. And my dad, he's like, my mom and my dad actually, as much success as comes, it can always be taken away very easy.
Appreciate your time, Jaden. Good luck in spring.
Thank you.
I'm Jordan Ham, and coming up on the recruiting roundup, I was over at the Under Armour All-American Combine on Sunday, and plenty of good players. Find out the latest from there coming up next.
And all of our content is up on our website. Make sure you check it out and bookmark it, sports360az.com. That's sports360az.com. All the latest recruiting news and notes now. Jordan Ham is out at Arizona State for spring football. Partner, I know that you were at Williams Field over the weekend for the Under Armour Combine. Who jumped out? What were the storylines to you?
Well, really, it was a really good class, especially a lot of guys from Arizona. Plenty of options to talk to in terms of 2021 recruits, 2022 recruits as well. Also a few 2023s in there, but Bram Walden showed out on Sunday and earned an Under Armour All-American invite to that All-American game. So Saguaro continues their long line of All-Americans. You had Keely Ringo last year, Byron Murphy a couple of years ago, Christian Kirk. Plenty of options going on to those highly elite games, and Bram Walden is now the next in line, and he shared with me what that meant to him, plus an update on his recruiting.
I've got this weird feeling right when he said that through my body. It's just I feel like a dream finally came true, but I'm truly just honored and just blessed to even be given this opportunity to be out here. So I'm just having fun, so I love it. Well, recruiting me the hardest probably Oregon, or USC, and got a few other Texas A&M's liking me, Texas. So got a few schools I'm liking and they're liking me, and so yeah, I'm excited.
Jordan, give me a couple other names of guys that jumped out at the Under Armour event.
Yeah, Anthony Lucas, a 2022 defensive lineman from Chaparral, one of the most highly sought after players and really blown up the past couple of weeks when you look at the type of programs that have been looking at him. And really, with two of those programs, Michigan and Oklahoma, they have ties to Arizona State, and that really started that connection with Anthony Lucas, and they were able to pull the trigger on him.
The D-line coach over there, Coach Nua, he also worked at ASU, so they just told him to keep an eye out for me. And then Jamar Kane, he helped me a lot when I went to the ASU camps, so he was always had an eye out for me. And when he moved over there, I guess he told him about me, so it was pretty cool.
And Brandon Buckner from Chandler, one other name that I've been hearing a ton about. How did he show at the Under Armour Combine?
He did so well in these one-on-one situations. He's just so quick. Had a very strong performance, getting a lot of looks from multiple Pac-12 programs, including Oregon, Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado, Oregon State as well. And he's starting to progress in his recruitment and even start to trim things down a little bit.
Just keeping my options open, but I do have a time where I do want to commit either before season or on my birthday. So right now, just taking everything in, just probably just start download down to the ones I mainly want to focus on.
Okay. And when's the birthday?
September 13th.
All right, from the Combine then, let's go through some names, where they're at. Jeremiah Tyler, what's the latest?
Yeah, he gets his first offer from the University of Nevada. He's a converted running back from Chandler, turned defensive tackle. You don't hear that very often, but he has the size, he has the speed, and he's going to be one of those many options along the defensive line for Rick Garrettson and the Chandler Wolves.
Andrew Patterson, fill us in.
Yeah, he is a highly productive wide receiver from Desert Edge, 2021 wide receiver. And this is just, I think, the Jordan Somerville connection. A former ASU grad assistant followed Danny Gonzalez to the University of New Mexico, has really been hitting Arizona hard with offers, and he was able to get a really good receiver in Jace Taylor in this last class. He's hoping the same fate for Andrew Patterson as they offer him.
And Florida State to wrap things up. They're back in the Valley.
They offer Zach Swanson, the Brophy 2022 defensive lineman. He's really picked up a lot of significant offers the past couple of months. Already has the size, continuing to fine-tune his skills along the defensive line, and adds the Seminoles this week.
Jordan Ham knows all, tells all every week on the Recruiting Roundup. And again, the big story, Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals at the Combine in Indianapolis. That's our show for this week. Thanks again for being with us. We'll see you again next week.